Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start by reminding you of something that can truly change your life. You are in control of your peace, your joy, and your emotions. Life is full of challenges and people will sometimes push your buttons, but here's the key: you don't have to let anyone disturb your inner peace. You can choose how you respond. You see, the power to stay calm, to rise above, and to walk in peace no matter what others throw your way is already inside of you. Today we're going to uncover how to tap into that power and live a life free from anger, free from the drama, and filled with nothing but peace and strength. So let's dive in and discover how to protect your peace and rise above the negativity. Taking responsibility for your emotions is one of the most powerful steps you can take toward personal growth and emotional maturity. Often when something happens to us, whether it's an angry comment, a frustrating situation, or a betrayal, we immediately want to shift the blame onto someone or something outside of us. We want to point the finger at the person who wronged us, the circumstances that didn't go our way, or the world that seems to be against us. However, the moment we do this, we give away our power. We surrender control over our emotions to external factors, which leaves us vulnerable to being at the mercy of others in the world around us. This is where taking responsibility comes in. When you take responsibility for your emotions, you reclaim your power. You recognize that you have the ability to choose how you react in any situation. It doesn't mean that what happens to you isn't hurtful or unfair. It doesn't mean you're supposed to ignore the wrongs or pretend everything is okay. What it does mean is that you understand your emotional responses are within your control, and you don't let anyone or anything dictate your state of mind. It starts with recognizing that no one can make you feel a certain way without your consent. If someone insults you, for example, you have a choice. You can choose to be offended, to carry that insult with you and let it affect your mood. Or you can choose to let it go, to not internalize their words, and to remind yourself that their opinion of you doesn't define who you are. In essence, your peace and emotional well-being are not determined by what others say or do, but by how you decide to process those events. Taking responsibility for your emotions also involves recognizing the power of your thoughts. Our emotions often come from the thoughts we allow ourselves to dwell on. If you constantly focus on negative things or allow your mind to dwell on the hurtful actions of others, it's no wonder you'll feel upset, angry, or distressed. But if you can change your thinking, you can change your emotional responses. By challenging your thoughts, questioning their validity, and replacing them with more empowering beliefs, you begin to take control of your emotional state. For example, if you're faced with a difficult situation, instead of immediately reacting with frustration or anger, pause and ask yourself, what is the lesson here? What is this situation trying to teach me? How can I respond in a way that reflects my inner peace and strength? This kind of self-awareness is key to taking responsibility for your emotions. It's about not letting external events dictate how you feel, but choosing to respond from a place of calm, wisdom, and understanding. Taking responsibility for your emotions means you acknowledge that you are the one who ultimately shapes your emotional landscape. External circumstances might trigger certain feelings, but how long you carry those feelings is up to you. You can choose to hold on to anger, resentment, or frustration, or you can choose to release them. You can choose to forgive, to move forward, and to let go of the weight that negative emotions carry. The longer you hold onto negative feelings, the heavier they become, and the more they affect your overall well-being. But by taking responsibility for your emotions, you free yourself from this burden and give yourself the chance to experience peace. Taking responsibility doesn't mean that you never feel anger, frustration, or sadness. These emotions are natural and human. What it means is that when you feel these emotions, you don't let them control you. You don't allow them to dictate your actions, words, or relationships. You recognize them for what they are, temporary feelings, and understand that they do not define you. In those moments, you take a deep breath, acknowledge the emotion, and then make a conscious choice about how you want to respond. By taking responsibility for your emotions, you also begin to realize the power of self-reflection. When something triggers a strong emotional reaction in you, take a moment to look inward. Ask yourself why you're feeling this way. Is there an underlying belief or past experience that is influencing your reaction? Often we react from unresolved issues or insecurities that we've never fully processed. By taking responsibility for your emotions, you start the process of self-healing and emotional growth. You become more aware of your triggers and can begin to shift the patterns that cause you to react in ways that don't serve you. Taking responsibility for your emotions means choosing to live with intention. It means you are no longer a passive observer in your own life, letting external circumstances dictate your happiness and peace. Instead, you become an active participant in shaping your emotional state. When you take responsibility for how you feel, you take control of your life. You step into your own power, and you begin to live a life where you are no longer at the mercy of others' words or actions. You become the master of your emotions, not the victim of them. Forgiveness is one of the most transformative practices you can embrace in your life. It's not about excusing bad behavior or pretending that something hurtful didn't happen. Instead, it's about releasing the hold that anger, bitterness, and resentment have over you. Forgiveness is not a gift to the person who wronged you, it's a gift to yourself. When you forgive, you free yourself from the negative emotions that keep you tethered to the past and prevent you from moving forward. This is especially important when it comes to never letting anyone or anything bother you. If you hold on to unforgiveness, it will keep triggering you, robbing you of your peace and your power. But when you make the decision to forgive, you break free from that cycle and reclaim your ability to choose how you respond. Forgiveness doesn't mean you condone someone's hurtful actions. It doesn't mean you forget what happened or that you invite that person back into your life. It simply means that you let go of the need for justice or revenge and stop allowing the wrong to control you. The moment you choose forgiveness, you take back the power that was once in the hands of the person who hurt you. You stop being a prisoner to your pain and start healing. It's important to understand that forgiveness is not a one-time event. It is a continual process. You may forgive someone today, and tomorrow, those old feelings of hurt or resentment might resurface. That's normal. In those moments, you have to remind yourself that you've already made the choice to forgive. Forgiveness is not a feeling, but a decision. It's a decision to stop letting the past dictate your present. It's a decision to stop allowing the actions of others to define your emotions. It's a decision to release the grip that anger has on your heart and mind. One of the most powerful aspects of forgiveness is that it brings you peace. Holding on to grudges and resentment creates an inner turmoil that affects every area of your life. When you harbor negative feelings towards someone, you carry that bitterness inside of you, and it affects your health, your relationships, and your ability to live fully. But when you forgive, you let go of that weight, and you make room for peace, joy, and healing. The act of forgiveness allows you to move forward, unburdened by the past, and embrace the future with hope and positivity. Forgiveness is also about setting boundaries and protecting your emotional well-being. People may hurt you, and while you can choose to forgive them, that doesn't mean you have to continue allowing them to treat you poorly. Forgiveness doesn't mean you become a doormat or put yourself in a position to be hurt again. It means that you forgive the person, but you also recognize the importance of setting healthy boundaries to protect yourself. By doing so, you allow yourself the space to heal without enabling the same harmful behavior to continue. Many people believe that forgiving means that you have to forget what happened. However, this is not the case. You don't need to erase the memory of the hurt. Rather, it's about choosing not to let it affect your life any longer. Forgiveness allows you to release the emotional hold that the event or person has on you, even if you still remember the experience. The key is not allowing the memory to continue to trigger negative emotions, but instead viewing the event with a sense of detachment and peace. Forgiveness is not always easy. It can be one of the most difficult things to do, especially when the hurt is deep or the betrayal is great. But remember, forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you. When you forgive, you break free from the chains of anger and resentment. You stop being controlled by the pain of the past, and you choose to focus on the present moment and your future. By choosing forgiveness, you choose to live with peace and strength. In some cases, forgiving others can also mean forgiving yourself. Sometimes we hold on to guilt, shame, or regret for things we've done or decisions we've made. These feelings can be just as destructive as unforgiveness toward others, and they can keep us stuck in a cycle of self-blame and self-criticism. But when you forgive yourself, you release the hold of those negative emotions and give yourself the chance to move forward. Just as we need to forgive others for their mistakes, we must also extend grace and forgiveness to ourselves. When you let go of the past, you give yourself permission to embrace the future with a renewed sense of freedom and peace. Forgiveness also requires humility. It requires you to let go of your ego, your need to be right, and your desire for justice. It requires you to acknowledge that holding on to resentment only hurts you, not the other person. It means recognizing that you can't control others, but you can control how you respond. By choosing to forgive, you demonstrate strength, maturity, and a willingness to release the emotional baggage that holds you back from living a peaceful and empowered life. Forgiveness, in the end, is the ultimate act of self-care. It is choosing your peace, your happiness, and your emotional well-being over the negativity of the past. It's about setting yourself free from the grip of anger, and in doing so, allowing yourself to step into a life of freedom, joy, and inner strength. When you focus on what you can control, you take back your power. Life is full of things we cannot change, and often it's easy to get caught up in what's beyond our reach. We can't control the actions of others, the circumstances we find ourselves in, or the unpredictable events that life throws at us. However, what we can control is how we respond to these things. By shifting our focus from external factors to our own actions and attitudes, we regain a sense of control and emotional stability. This focus is essential when it comes to maintaining your peace and never allowing others to bother you. The first step in focusing on what you can control is to recognize the difference between what you can change and what you can't. There's no point in wasting energy on things that are outside of your control. For example, you can't control how someone treats you, but you can control how you react to their behavior. You can't control the traffic or the weather, but you can control how you choose to respond to those situations. When you focus on your own actions, thoughts, and reactions, you remove the stress of trying to change things that are beyond your influence, and you begin to direct your energy toward what truly matters, your peace of mind. One of the most powerful aspects of focusing on what you can control is that it empowers you. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your life, and it helps you take ownership of your emotional state. Instead of feeling like a victim of circumstances or other people's behavior, you start to realize that your emotional responses are your own responsibility. You can choose how you react in any situation, and you can choose to respond with calmness, patience, and grace. When you focus on what you can control, you stop giving your power away to external situations and other people. You reclaim your strength and become the architect of your emotional world. In many cases, when we get upset or frustrated, it's because we've allowed our focus to drift to the things we can't control. We may start thinking about someone's actions, wondering why they did what they did, or stressing about things that are completely out of our hands. This creates a cycle of anxiety and frustration that keeps us trapped in negativity. But by consciously bringing our attention back to what we can control, we break this cycle. We stop wasting our energy on things that drain us, and we redirect it toward actions and thoughts that will bring us peace. One of the most important things you can control is your mindset. Your thoughts have the power to shape your emotional state and influence your actions. If you constantly think about how unfair life is or how others have wronged you, your emotions will reflect those thoughts. But if you choose to focus on what you're grateful for, the opportunities in front of you, and the positive aspects of your life, your mindset will shift, and so will your emotional responses. By taking control of your thoughts, you take control of your emotional experience. You no longer have to react to life's challenges from a place of frustration or anger. Instead, you can respond from a place of peace, understanding, and resilience. Focusing on what you can control also means letting go of the need for approval or validation from others. It's easy to get caught up in seeking the approval of others, especially when you feel misunderstood or rejected. But when you focus on what you can control, you stop relying on others to dictate your worth or your emotional state. You learn to validate yourself, to recognize your own strengths, and to trust your own judgment. You stop letting others' opinions or behaviors control how you feel about yourself, and you start building a strong sense of self-worth that comes from within. Another crucial aspect of focusing on what you can control is managing your reactions. It's natural to feel upset when someone criticizes you or when things don't go your way. But the power lies in how you react to those situations. You can choose to react impulsively, letting your emotions take over, or you can choose to take a step back, breathe, and respond with thoughtfulness. By managing your reactions, you avoid the trap of emotional reactivity, and instead, you choose responses that align with your values and your goals. This helps you maintain your peace and ensures that you don't let anyone's behavior or the unpredictability of life shake your emotional stability. Focusing on what you can control also involves taking care of your own well-being. You can control how you take care of your body, mind, and spirit. You can choose to eat healthily, get enough rest, exercise, and engage in activities that nourish you. By taking care of yourself, you build emotional resilience and strength. When you feel physically well and mentally clear, you are better equipped to handle the challenges that come your way. You are less likely to be rattled by external stressors or the behavior of others because you've taken the necessary steps to protect and nurture yourself. Finally, focusing on what you can control means being proactive instead of reactive. Rather than waiting for things to happen to you, you take the initiative to create the life you want. You set goals, take action, and make decisions that move you closer to your desired outcome. This gives you a sense of purpose and direction, and it ensures that you are not at the mercy of life's circumstances. When you focus on your actions, you create the future you want, and you don't allow external forces to dictate the direction of your life. When you focus on what you can control, you stop reacting to the world around you and start shaping it according to your vision and values. This not only helps you maintain your peace, but also empowers you to live a more fulfilled and purposeful life. One of the most freeing realizations you can have in life is that most things are not about you. When someone behaves in a way that's hurtful or inconsiderate, it's easy to take it personally, to assume that their actions are a direct reflection of you or your worth. But the truth is, people's actions are often more about them than they are about you. Their behavior, whether it's kindness or cruelty, is shaped by their own experiences, struggles, and emotions. When you stop taking things personally, you protect yourself from unnecessary hurt, and you regain the ability to maintain your peace, regardless of how others behave. Taking things personally is a natural tendency, especially if you're sensitive to how others perceive you. We all want to feel validated, respected, and appreciated, and when someone criticizes us or treats us poorly, it's easy to internalize that as a reflection of our own shortcomings. But the key to emotional stability and personal growth is realizing that the way someone else behaves is not a commentary on your character or value. It's a reflection of them, not you. When you take things personally, you give the other person the power to affect how you feel. If someone insults you, they have the power to make you feel inadequate or angry. If someone ignores you, they have the power to make you feel invisible or unimportant. But when you stop taking things personally, you take that power back. You stop allowing others to dictate your emotional state, and you stop letting their behavior control your sense of self-worth. You recognize that their actions are based on their own internal struggles and have nothing to do with you. This shift in perspective requires a level of emotional maturity. It's not always easy to detach yourself from the actions of others, especially when those actions feel unjust or hurtful. But by choosing not to take things personally, you create a protective boundary around your own emotional well-being. You stop allowing others' negativity to seep into your own mindset. When you don't take things personally, you stop getting caught up in drama, hurt feelings, or resentment, and you can move forward with peace and clarity. When you stop taking things personally, you also stop assuming that the world revolves around you. Often we think that people's actions are somehow directly connected to us, when in fact they are more about what's going on in the other person's life. Maybe someone is rude to you because they're dealing with personal struggles, stress, or insecurity. Their behavior has little to do with you and everything to do with what's going on in their world. The sooner you realize this, the sooner you can stop internalizing other people's actions and start maintaining your own peace. Another important aspect of not taking things personally is recognizing that everyone has their own unique perspective and worldview. What might seem like a personal attack or a criticism to you may not even be intended that way. People's words and actions are often shaped by their own beliefs, experiences, and emotions, which may be very different from your own. By remembering this, you can avoid jumping to conclusions or overreacting when someone behaves in a way that feels hurtful. Instead of assuming that someone is trying to hurt you or insult you, take a step back and consider that their actions may be a reflection of their own internal struggles, not a judgment of you. When you stop taking things personally, you also stop putting undue pressure on yourself to please others or to meet their expectations. We often get caught up in trying to win the approval of others, and when we don't receive it, we feel rejected or unworthy. But the truth is, you can never please everyone. People have different opinions, preferences, and personalities, and no matter how hard you try, you'll never be able to meet everyone's expectations. When you stop taking things personally, you release the need for external validation and start finding fulfillment and self-worth from within. You no longer rely on others' approval to feel good about yourself. When you stop taking things personally, you are better equipped to deal with conflict. Conflict is an inevitable part of life, and when someone disagrees with you or challenges your ideas, it's easy to take it as a personal attack. But when you remove the personal element from the situation, you can engage in constructive dialogue without becoming defensive or emotional. You can listen to the other person's perspective, express your own views, and find a resolution without letting your feelings get in the way. This not only strengthens your relationships, but also allows you to maintain your peace and emotional balance, regardless of the conflict at hand. One of the most powerful aspects of not taking things personally is that it allows you to practice compassion. When you realize that someone's behavior is a reflection of their own struggles and not a judgment of you, it becomes easier to feel empathy for them. Instead of responding with anger or resentment, you can choose to respond with kindness and understanding. By choosing compassion over defensiveness, you strengthen your ability to maintain your peace, and you cultivate healthier, more harmonious relationships with others. When you stop taking things personally, you stop carrying the weight of other people's opinions, judgments, and behavior. You free yourself from the burden of constantly seeking approval or fearing rejection. You protect your emotional well-being by realizing that the actions of others are not a reflection of your worth. You stop giving others the power to control your happiness and emotional state, and instead you take back control over your own peace and joy. Learning to let go of things you cannot change is one of the most important steps you can take in order to never let anyone or anything bother you. We often find ourselves frustrated, stressed, or upset because we are holding on to things that are beyond our control. Whether it's someone else's behavior, a past event, or a future outcome, when we cling to things we cannot change, we lose our peace. Letting go isn't about being passive or giving up. It's about recognizing that there are situations, people, and circumstances that are simply out of our hands and choosing to release them instead of allowing them to hold us captive emotionally. The first step in letting go is to acknowledge that there are things in life we cannot control. We cannot control how others behave, what happens in the future, or how life unfolds in unexpected ways. Holding on to the need for control over these things only leads to frustration, anger, and anxiety. The more we try to control the uncontrollable, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. But when we recognize that some things are beyond our reach, we can start to shift our focus from resistance to acceptance. This acceptance doesn't mean that we are giving up, rather, it means that we are choosing peace over struggle. One of the most powerful ways to let go of things you cannot change is by shifting your mindset. Instead of focusing on what you wish would happen or what you think should happen, start focusing on what is happening right now. This moment is the only one that you have control over. When you learn to accept the present moment, no matter how imperfect or challenging it may be, you free yourself from the grip of anxiety and frustration. You stop living in the past or the future, and you start living in the now. By accepting what is, you are better able to respond with clarity and grace rather than reacting out of frustration or anger. Letting go is also about letting go of expectations. We often set ourselves up for disappointment by expecting others to behave in certain ways or by having unrealistic expectations about how situations should unfold. When others don't meet our expectations, we feel hurt or upset. But by releasing these expectations, we allow ourselves to be more flexible and open to whatever comes our way. Instead of holding on to how we think things should be, we can embrace life as it is with all of its imperfections. This shift in perspective helps us stop getting frustrated by the things we cannot change and start embracing the beauty and the lessons that come with the things we can't control. Another important aspect of letting go is forgiving both others and yourself. Often we hold on to anger, bitterness, or resentment because we are unwilling to forgive someone for their actions, or we are unable to forgive ourselves for our past mistakes. But when we refuse to forgive, we allow those negative emotions to take root in our hearts, and they keep us stuck in the past. By forgiving, we release the emotional charge attached to the situation, and we stop allowing it to control our thoughts and feelings. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing the behavior, but it means choosing to no longer carry the weight of that hurt. This act of letting go allows us to move forward with freedom and peace. It's also essential to let go of the need for approval. We often hold on to the desire for others to approve of our choices, our actions, and our lives. We seek validation from others because we fear rejection or disapproval. However, when we learn to let go of the need for external validation, we begin to trust ourselves and our own decisions. We stop living for others and start living for ourselves. This shift in mindset brings peace, as we are no longer dependent on the opinions of others to determine our worth or happiness. Letting go of the past is another powerful step in releasing things we cannot change. Often we hold on to past regrets, mistakes, or painful memories. We replay them over and over in our minds, wishing we could have done things differently. However, no amount of regret can change the past. It's important to recognize that the past is gone, and the only power it holds is the power we give it. By letting go of past mistakes and regrets, we free ourselves from the emotional weight they carry. We stop letting our past define our present and our future, and we create the space to move forward with a clean slate. Another aspect of letting go is learning to release the need for control in relationships. We often try to change or fix people, especially when we care about them. We want them to behave in certain ways, or we try to manipulate situations to ensure that things go according to our plan. But the truth is, we cannot control how others act or feel. The more we try to control relationships, the more we risk damaging them. By letting go of the need to control others, we create space for more authentic and healthy relationships. We learn to accept people as they are, with all their flaws and imperfections, and we stop trying to change them. When we learn to let go of things we cannot change, we also begin to cultivate a greater sense of trust. We trust that life will unfold as it's meant to, and that we will be able to handle whatever comes our way. We trust ourselves to make decisions and to adapt to challenges as they arise. We trust that everything that happens, even the difficult moments, is an opportunity for growth. Letting go of the need for control allows us to embrace uncertainty with confidence, knowing that we have the strength and resilience to navigate life's twists and turns. Finally, letting go of things you cannot change is a process that takes practice and patience. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires continuous effort to shift your mindset, release old patterns, and embrace the present moment. But the more you practice letting go, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll find that you can let go of things with greater ease and grace, and you'll experience a deeper sense of peace and freedom in your life. Setting boundaries is a crucial part of never allowing others to bother you, and it starts with recognizing that you are worthy of respect. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out or being rigid. They are about protecting your emotional well-being and ensuring that you maintain peace in your life. Setting clear boundaries gives you the ability to say no without guilt and to prioritize your own needs without feeling selfish. When you set boundaries, you take control of your life, your time, and your energy. You stop allowing others to dictate how you feel or how you spend your time. Instead, you create a space where you can thrive and maintain your inner peace. The first step in setting boundaries is understanding that you have the right to say no. Many people struggle with saying no because they fear rejection, conflict, or disappointing others. However, saying no is an essential part of self-care. You can't please everyone, and trying to do so will only lead to burnout and resentment. By setting boundaries and saying no when necessary, you honor your own needs and protect your time and energy. Saying no doesn't mean you're being rude or selfish. It means that you're making a conscious decision to put yourself first when it's needed. In order to set boundaries, you first have to know what you need and what your limits are. This requires self-awareness and a clear understanding of your own values, needs, and priorities. Take some time to reflect on the areas of your life where you feel drained, stressed, or overwhelmed. Are there people or situations that consistently cause you emotional distress? Are there activities or commitments that you feel obligated to do but don't bring you joy or fulfillment? Identifying these areas is the first step towards setting boundaries that will help protect your emotional health and maintain your peace. Once you've identified the areas where you need boundaries, the next step is to communicate them clearly and assertively. Setting boundaries isn't about being passive or hoping others will read your mind. It's about being clear and direct about what you need and what you will tolerate. This can be challenging, especially if you're used to putting others' needs before your own, but it's important to remember that setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It's a way of showing yourself the same care and consideration that you would show to a loved one. When you communicate your boundaries, do so with confidence and clarity. You don't need to explain or justify your decisions. Simply state what you need and why it's important to you. One of the challenges of setting boundaries is dealing with people who may push back or try to test your limits. Some people are accustomed to having access to your time, energy, or attention, and they may not understand why you're setting limits. It's important to stand firm in your boundaries, even if others resist. Remember that your boundaries are not negotiable. They are there to protect your emotional well-being. If someone challenges your boundaries, be assertive but calm. Reinforce your limits and remain consistent. Over time, people will learn to respect your boundaries because they will see that you are serious about maintaining them. Setting boundaries also means protecting your energy from toxic or draining people. There will always be individuals who are negative, critical, or demanding. These people may try to manipulate or guilt trip you into doing things that don't serve you. While it's important to approach others with compassion, it's equally important to recognize when a relationship is unhealthy and when it's time to distance yourself. Protecting your energy doesn't mean being unkind. It simply means recognizing when a relationship is taking more from you than it's giving and making the decision to set limits. This could mean limiting the amount of time you spend with certain people or creating physical or emotional distance to protect your peace. Another important aspect of setting boundaries is understanding that you don't need to apologize for prioritizing yourself. Many people feel guilty for taking time for themselves or saying no to others, but it's essential to recognize that your needs are just as important as anyone else's. Self-care is not selfish, it's necessary for your well-being. By taking care of yourself and setting boundaries, you are in a better position to show up for others in a healthy and meaningful way. When you're constantly giving to others without replenishing your own reserves, you become depleted and resentful. But when you set boundaries and make time for self-care, you're able to give more authentically and sustainably. Setting boundaries is also about learning to say no without feeling the need to explain yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you need to set limits. If someone asks you why you're saying no or why you're setting a boundary, you don't need to provide a lengthy justification. A simple, "I'm not able to do that right now," or "this isn't the right time for me," is enough. By refraining from over-explaining, you reinforce the idea that your boundaries are valid and don't require external validation. It's important to remember that you are not responsible for how others react to your boundaries. You are only responsible for maintaining them. Another key aspect of setting boundaries is learning to respect the boundaries of others. Just as you have the right to protect your own time, energy, and emotional health, others have the same right. Respecting other people's boundaries fosters mutual respect and healthy relationships. When you respect the boundaries of others, you create a safe space for open communication, understanding, and trust. Boundaries are not about creating walls between people, they're about creating a foundation for healthy, respectful interactions. Finally, remember that setting boundaries is an ongoing process. It's not something you do once and then forget about. As you grow and change, your boundaries may need to shift as well. It's important to regularly check in with yourself and reassess your needs. Are your boundaries still serving you? Are there areas where you need to be more firm or more flexible? Regularly evaluating your boundaries ensures that they continue to protect your peace and emotional health. Setting boundaries is a powerful tool in maintaining your peace and never allowing others to bother you. By recognizing your worth, being clear about your needs, and standing firm in your limits, you create a life where you can prioritize your well-being without guilt. Boundaries are not walls, they are the foundation for healthy, fulfilling relationships and a peaceful, empowered life.